All right, Anna, I have another WikiHow for you.
Oh, goody.
This one is titled, How to Be a Scene or Emo Transgender Girl. Are you a scene or emo transgender girl?
I was at one point, I think. Nowadays, I might be more considered goth, but
There is sometimes a fine line between emo and goth.
that's true. That's true.
Regardless of what South Park tries to tell you, they're not mortal enemies.
And they're also not
anymore.
mutually exclusive.
All right, step one. Now keep in mind, remember the title being How to Be a Scene or Emo Transgender Girl. Step one, get the right bra.
Okay, just good advice for literally any woman or person with boobs ever.
Bra sizing is a complicated thing that even trips up many cisgender females. 8 out of 10 women are wearing the wrong size.
That's just a good fact. I mean, honestly.
This is the thing with WikiHow. It's like, hey, I started writing an article about bra sizing because number 2 is measure yourself very tightly before wearing a fake bra. A fake bra?
What's a fake bra?
What is a fake bra? It's just a bra.
Okay, here's the thing, though. I have seen, breast forms that are attached to a bra-like structure. That is something that exists.
Oh, sure, but this is suggesting stuffing as well, so I don't even think that's what they're talking about.
What the fuck is a fake bra?
Well, you'll be really excited about number 3, because number 3 is disguise your crotch.
You gotta disguise it.
Put a Groucho Marx mask on there. One of those,
the ones with the glasses
and a mustache. You'll never recognize your crotch after that. It's interesting, too, because the only thing it says under this category is, if you've been on estrogen for a while and have a smaller sized area, great. It's just great.
Listen, if you've been on estrogen and you have a small dick, great.
That's fantastic. Way to go, you. Now, back to the whole emo thing.
Oh, yeah, I already forgot. We're step forward. I already forgot what the fuck this article was about.
All right. Number 4, figure out what to do with your hair. Stereotypically, scene girls have very heavily teased, poofy, and dyed hair. This is actually less than amazing for your hair and is often looked down upon by scenesters. However...
Sure. I mean, honestly, it's terrible for your hair. To get it's basically just a whole bunch of split ends all the way up because you've killed your hair with hair dye and bleach,
But then it says, a convincing scene transgender girl will require long, layered hair.
Ooh.
While doing too much with your hair isn't a good idea, scene hair is not supposed to lie completely flat on your head. Okay. Whatever.
Sure.
And then it says, however, if your hair is curly, you're going to need, in capital letters, a straightener. No arguing.
Need a straightener.
Put that teaser down. It says there will be no teasing your hair.
No hair, I respect and love you.
Number 5, find a top you like. Scene girls often wear outlandish, happy, and above all, feminine t-shirts.
What does outlandish, happy, and feminine mean in this context when we're talking about a shirt?
The picture is sort of like an ink blot test with a skull that has a bow on the skull. So it kind of fits all that description, I guess.
I guess. I just... I did not know that scenesters were supposed to be happy. Isn't that the whole point of
emo kids. Yeah,
emo kids are the depressed ones. That's right.
Fully.
Scenesters are just anxious.
Spend some time shopping for the right pants.
Pants? Or pants?
Pants. Yep.
Okay, with a T. Okay. I thought you were saying pans. Make sure that you're shopping for the right pans for you, because most scenesters will identify as pansexual at some point.
As a pansexual person, I just want to tell you need to have the right pants. No, that's the worst joke.
It is. I'm sorry.
The image that they are showing me is some indescript cloth with a tag on it that says $79.95. So evidently you need expensive pants. In order to be
$80 pants? What the
emo
fuck?
Scenester. Scenester pants are, and always will be, skinny jeans. That's what it says.
I wear skinny jeans, all the time. They're just comfy.
Well, then you're going to die, because the next sentence is, skinny jeans are a death sentence for transgender girls. And seem to gain pleasure out of stopping you from passing. What?
What?
What are you saying?
Listen, apparently your little dick mustache and glasses isn't working. You really gotta get real in there. You really
gotta get in there.
You not only have to have the glasses and the mustache, but you also have to have a fake mustache underneath that mustache and a tiny hat on it.
Well, to add to that, if you can find jeans that have sparkles, animal prints, or hearts, or that are pink, wear them.
Gross.
These are feminine things.
No, that's gross. Don't wear those pants. That's disgusting. Unless you're like a 7-year-old.
Please don't wear those pants.
Listen,
hey,
if you're like a 13-year-old trans girl who's trying to be emo, trying to be seen, trying to be goth, don't look for pants like that. Please don't. Go with black. Black is good.
Okay, I'm going to read you one more. Never forget the accessories. And the accessories photo is a necklace that attaches to a crown with what looks like a shrunken head in the crown. And then it says, scene girls love accessories. Just remember to never go too much of a good thing is a bad thing. That doesn't make any sense.
That's a bad sentence, my man. You had too much of a good sentence there.
Never wear belts. They'll draw too much attention to your crotch. Bad idea, trans girls.
Okay, a trans girl did not write this. Hi, I'm Anna, a transgender person.
And I'm Cam, your dad.
And this is The Transgender, a podcast chronicling my transition.
And a cisgender man learning how to support it.
So today we're talking about titties.
Yes! Finally.
I know, it's been so long since we last talked about titties. I wanted to talk about the anatomy of a titty. Because we all know that they're warm and soft and lovely to hold and sleep on. But
we talk regularly about how big of fans we are of titties.
We are the biggest fans of titties. Listen, viewer,
yeah.
Listener.
The FBI agent who's watching us right now.
Right now through my camera. Listener, if you do not know how much of a fan we are about titties, you just need to go to transgenderpod.com and look at our merch section, and you will see a titty sticker. We love titties in this house. We love titties so much.
And trans mask folks, we love not titties too.
Yes, like, trans mask folks, if you
both are great.
Listen, anybody who doesn't want their titties, we don't like those titties. But if you want titties, we fucking love titties.
Exactly.
So I'm going to talk about sort of the anatomy of a titty and what goes into a titty, right? So we all know that it's mostly fat, right? I mean, I think that's pretty common knowledge is that...
Did we know that?
Did we? I guess I don't know. You, a lay person, tell me. Do you know what a titty is made out of?
Can you flex your titties independently? Okay. Nope. Definitely fat and not muscle.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because titties are mostly fat, except for my favorite word in this diagram of a titty, which is lobules.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a bad word.
Is that fat?
No, it's a glandular organ inside the titty.
Our globulars. That sounds like something I would make up.
No, it does sound like something you would make up.
Have you seen my globulars? Lobulars with an L.
Oh,
lobulars. Oh, yeah, no, globulars I did make up.
Globulars was bad. Well, so inside these lobules, right, you have milk glands, and they produce the milk. And that milk has to go somewhere, and so it goes through these things called ducts. Kind of like your air ducts, or like the ducts outside in the pond. Wait, no, not those
with
ones.
The corkscrew penises.
Yeah, with the corkscrew penises. They kind of look like corkscrew penises.
The ducts or the boob? Wait, what are we talking about?
Titties.
Yes.
So, underneath the titty itself, you've got the muscle. And so that's why, like, traditionally cis men who are very well fit, Terry Crews, is able to, like, flex their pecs, right? Because there is muscle under there.
Flexing the muscle that is exposed because there's not as much fat over the pecs.
Exactly. Yeah. And so there is muscle there. Unfortunately, it would be very hard to lift a titty with just your muscle underneath. That would be really challenging because titties weigh a lot.
That's my new kink. I want to see a titty get lifted independently.
Listen, we're all about exploring your kinks here, but
Not here.
I didn't
No. Not on this podcast. Oh my God, the chaos. Sorry. Go on.
So that's the interior of a titty. Did you know about the exterior of a titty?
I do. But I don't know anything medical about it.
Anatomy-wise? Yeah. Okay, so we all know that the best part of a titty is the warm, soft outside of a titty. But what about the nipple? We all have
about the nipple?
We all have a nipple.
Well, this is my big question is, I have nipples too. So
yeah.
What's the difference between my anatomy and anybody else's?
Hormones.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. So as a trans woman who has been on hormones now for a while, my nipples have gotten bigger and more sensitive, which is very fascinating to me. But it's not as big of a difference as the areola.
Areola?
Areola, I can never pronounce it right.
I think it's areola.
But it's not as significant as the areola, which has grown significantly. Yeah, and I to this day, I still do not know entirely what the areola is for. And listeners, if you know exactly what the areola is for and you want to send us a message, I would absolutely love that because I want to know what the areola is for specifically. But hormones. So I take estrogen, right? And that creates breast tissue. And really what it is doing is that it's taking the lobules and making them bigger, and also redistributing fat so that it can develop into a titty. Because men are born with lobules too. I don't know if any of you have noticed or have heard, but but a man can produce breast milk if they are...
Well, I was just thinking about that. There was a big scare a long time ago about the estrogen level in soy milk, and there was this whole thing about men lactating because they've been eating too much soy, which I think was debunked, but it was definitely have some scientific fact to it, which is that, again, as far as our anatomy is concerned on this part of our body, it's actually very similar and not as dissimilar as society makes it sound.
Yes, it is. And the only thing is that the lobules have not developed. And in trans men or non-binary people who are masculine and taking testosterone and everything, the lobules will actually start to apoptosis, which is a series of cell death. And it's really fascinating because what that means is that slowly over time, the actual breast tissue, the actual breast tissue itself will start to shrink because all of the
lobules are shrinking.
Because the lobules are shrinking.
Interesting.
But included in that is the fat redistribution. So titties are made up of fat and lobules, right? And testosterone will take the fat and go, actually fat, you go to the tummy, you go to the arms, you go to all these other places. And often
to my cheeks. That's where the fat really likes to get in there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But then the lobules also start to atrophy. Or, sorry, it's not atrophy. But then the lobules actually start to apoptosis and to shrink so that your whole titty becomes a smaller chest-like. But it doesn't get down to the level of, like, a cis man,
being fully flat in the way that a trans mass person might like.
Yes, and so that's where surgery can come into play. Because once the fat is kind of there, it kind of stays there, even though like testosterone can help to limit that a bit, it doesn't really work. However, trans men who start, or trans mass people who start testosterone prepubescently or during puberty can actually inhibit the growth of the future titty.
That's amazing.
And just have a flat chest.
This says so much about the important impacts for gender euphoria that hormones provide. Because what you were saying right now is hormones really are a key that unlocks a certain profile for how people want to look depending on what their gender identity is. And I think that's really amazing to me, is that long enough on estrogen or long enough on testosterone, your body's going to begin to do the thing that it wants, that you want it to do in order to better reflect your gender identity.
Exactly. And none of these are perfect if you are after puberty. If you've gone through puberty, none of these solutions are perfect. That's where surgeries can come into play and things like that. However, if you are young and you're able to start hormone blockers, or if you're currently going through puberty and you haven't really started any of those symptoms of puberty, that's not a good way to say it.
No, I like that. Oh, God, the symptoms of puberty. All the hair.
If you haven't gone through and experienced the symptoms of puberty yet, and you start to go on hormone blockers, you can actually start to develop secondary sex characteristics that will align more with your gender identity early on and have a puberty that matches your gender identity more so than if you were to go through puberty without. So for like me, as an example, in my family history, we have a history of large titties. That's just a fact. But because I am a trans woman, my titties will never be the size of the cis people in our family. However, they will grow more than perhaps a trans woman who has not large titties in her family.
And right. So the hormone is actually tapping into your genetic code in order to say, oh, this is what I want to do with this in order to fulfill my DNA sort of prescription for what you're supposed to look like.
Exactly. And so I just kind of want to end this anatomy of the titty lesson by saying titties are great, hormones are great, and also everybody needs a good titty in their life, unless you're gay, which in that case, if you're gay or you don't have titties in your life, I'm sorry, you're missing out. Titties are great, but if it's not your thing, it's not your thing.
I know a lot of gay men who like titties as well.
Yeah, that's true. Titties are just good all around.
There's something very appealing about that.
The best pillow on the earth.
It is the best pillow. Well, I think that actually is a pretty good segue, as usual, to today's main topic. I have not in a while asked you common questions that are asked of transgender people about
all right,
their
let's go.
identity.
I'm ready. Woo!
And this particular one is actually titled Questionable Questions about Transgender Identity. So these are questions that I would not recommend that our average listener ask transgender people in your lives. But Anna and I have the rapport right now to allow me to ask these questions and allow her to say, this is not something I feel comfortable answering or not. But I know Anna, and I know that she is willing to answer a lot of questions that are quite invasive.
Well, and the other thing, too, about this is I love to answer these questions because it gives me a very valuable tool to then push back on people who are asking these questions and say, okay, you're asking this question. Now I'm going to reverse this question and ask you it because I answered it. And now it's your turn to answer the question.
That's exactly
and just make them feel uncomfortable, because that's really what the point of all of this is to make trans people feel uncomfortable or anything like that. And I say, let's change the narrative.
Well, it's interesting because one of the examples that they gave before even getting into the questions was, would you ask a stranger what their genitals look like? And I think that's such a wonderful comparison because, yep. I mean, that's what do your genitals look like is such a odd thing to ask another person and such a personal thing. And that's essentially what you're asking when you ask the question I'm about to ask, which is the most common question asked of trans people that is inappropriate.
Always.
Have you had the surgery?
Always. We made a light bulb joke about this once, and it is still my favorite bit that I think we've done in a while.
It's very good.
Never, ever ask a trans person this. It is none of your fucking business. I do not care who you are. The only situation in which this is an appropriate question to ask, and the wording needs to be different, is if you are a physician working with this patient. That is the only time, and it is relevant to the patient's case. If you are a physician who is asking out of personal interest, if you are a random goer by on the street, if you are asking this question in specific, have you had the surgery, in quotes, this is a bad question. My answer to this is no. I have not had the surgery yet. I'm planning on having it soon. And by the surgery, typically we mean bottom surgery. However, there are multiple surgeries that trans people can have, in fact. I was denied having facial feminization surgery. And I am quoting the surgeon verbatim here, which was, "You have the face of a trans woman who I would hope to see after surgery." And this was like
a lovely sentiment.
It is a lovely sentiment. Like,
you do have such a feminine and beautiful face, and so
Thank
there's
you.
no reason why. Yeah, I mean, I agree with the surgeon. Like, there's no reason why you would need to change that.
But it is so interesting because, like, people only think about bottom surgery, and they don't think about, like,
Right.
what other things can trans people do to make themselves feel more euphoric. And for some people, it might just be, hey, I'm getting facial surgery, and that's going to be it for me. Or, hey, I'm getting a hysterectomy, and that's going to be it for me. Or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And so, like, we should really just not be asking trans people, have you had the surgery?
Right.
And
because the answer should be, well, which surgery?
Yeah, which surgery?
Like,
and also, fuck you for asking.
And also, fuck you for asking. Well, so you mentioned that we talk about top surgery as well. So that could be a mastectomy or augmentation. One of the ones that doesn't get talked about a lot is vocal surgery. That's actually a fairly common trans surgery as well.
It is. It is a lot more difficult, and so not a lot of surgeons do it. However, it is common, somewhat common, I should say, for trans people to seek it out. What I would say to that is, I have benefited significantly from vocal therapy and speech therapy to try and get my voice to where I want it. However, that doesn't work for everybody, and I know that. So do whatever is best for you, and if you want to compliment a trans person on their voice, please do. They would love it. It would make their day, and we'd get a lovely gender euphoria from it. But don't ask them what kind of surgery or what kind of training they have had on it, because it might feel dysphoric to them. And so I would not put this on the fuck you level. I would put this
it reminds me of asking somebody like, oh, did you go to speech therapy to fix that stutter of yours? Like, it's personal in a way that feels offensive while not being so overly offensive.
Yes.
Just, I mean, be courteous to other people.
Please be courteous of other people. I mean, honestly, the whole premise of our podcast is don't be a bigot.
Yeah.
So please just be courteous and don't ask stupid questions. Continue asking me stupid questions, though. I'm
going to keep asking you stupid questions, and this one comes as a pair. This one is, what was your birth name, and can I see photos of you before you transitioned?
Okay, can I first say I was really expecting a fruit, and I'm disappointed. And I'm disappointed, secondly, by the type of question that this is. So this is the question that is the one that I will not answer, and that is because this question is not designed to further knowledge. It is designed to target and hurt trans people. I don't care what your intention is when you're asking this. You are only hurting a trans person by asking this. Trans people do not want to think, typically, about their life prior. For me, I don't even want to remember really what happened before I transitioned, because it was so hard every single day in a way that was impossible to get over until I transitioned. Do not ask a trans person this question, ever, for any reason.
Yeah, period.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any more to say about it.
No.
Just please never talk about somebody's dead name at all. If you know what their dead name is, never use it.
If you know what they looked like previously, do not tell other people about that. If you want to compliment a trans person on how they are progressing in their transition, if you are comfortable with them, if you know each other, I think that that's appropriate. But please make sure that you know this trans person and that they have shared things with you that might not be shared with the public, and that you have a good rapport with them. I wouldn't go to the office and be like, oh, hey, girl, your tits are looking good. Like, that's not a good thing to say. But if you're like, hey, I have been a friend of yours for 7 years, and I really like to see how happy you are and how cool it is to see your transition, like, that's a good thing to say.
Yeah, that absolutely is. I love who you are now. I love that you've embraced your identity. Like, that's
those are
cool
good things
shit.
to say.
Cool shit to say. You should say that to everybody in your life. Like, I like to hear that. Like, I like who you've become as a person. I'm like, hell yeah, that makes me feel great. So, yeah.
Let's just compliment each other. Let's stop stigmatizing compliments and just start complimenting each other. I think it's a great way to see life.
So important. All right, here's one that's not as personal. Why do there seem to be more transgender people?
This is a complicated question that I think we've touched on a bit. It seems like there are more transgender people now because transgender people are more able to come out and express themselves and realize that they are trans. We've talked about a lot of history regarding gender identity and how a lot of civilizations and countries and everything have been able to come out as trans more openly, and how they had whole groups of society that were trans. I mean, you can look at Native American people and how, is it Native American? Is it indigenous now? I do not remember.
I would say indigenous. So
Okay.
Start that again, say indigenous.
Looking for positivity within our community? Then listen to Queer We Are, the podcast where you hear some of the most interesting and successful LGBTQ+ people share uplifting stories, including their definition of success, how they achieved it, and what they learned along the way. Guests include celebrities, activists, politicians, athletes, and many more. Click the link in the show notes and check us out, or go to queerweare.com. If you've been looking for both fun and inspiration, now you know where to find us. Queer We Are.
I mean, just look at indigenous people and the Two-Spirit and everything revolving around gender that they have going on and how cool that is. And those are trans people. Like, it is genuinely amazing to me that we have these awesome people in our own goddamn country, America, who have had this going on. And we're now saying, oh, well, why does it seem like there are so many transgender people? Because America's finally catching up with millennia of...
I mean, 1,000 years ago, there were trans people that were worshipped in societies. So
yes.
the idea that this is some brand new TikTok fad is so bizarrely inaccurate and is just, it's just transphobic talking points. That's all it is. It's not reality.
Also, I just want to throw in a really quick curveball here and say, fuck you, Abigail Schreier. You can come after me, but fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah, Abigail knows how we feel. All right. Okay. I'm going to end on a hard question.
Okay.
With whom do transgender people have sex? And how do you have sex? How do you do it?
How do you do it? How do you have sex? With whoever the fuck
your
they
dad
want.
is asking you. Tell me all about how you have sex.
Okay, let me start off by answering the first question, which is the same answer as if you were to ask, hey, father, who the fuck do cis people have sex with?
Yeah.
Whoever the fuck they want.
Whoever they want.
Like,
in any way that they want.
In any way that they want. How do trans people have sex? Whatever makes them feel good. Like, however, that the same way that cis people have sex. What the fuck do you mean? Father, how do you have sex? Like, that's the level of this stupid fucking question. What do you mean, how do we have sex? I don't know. Like people have sex?
Well, and this just, again, blurs the line that we want to establish a firm line for, which is transgender is not a sexuality. Like that seems very confusing. And so there are two ways that you can be confused here. One is that you think that being trans is a sexuality. The other is that you immediately assume that a trans person is queer in not alignment of their gender identity. And so the question here is, like, first of all, why? Why are you asking this question in the first place?
Honestly.
None of this fucking matters. Like, why do we ask anybody who they have sex with? Like, I don't care if you have 30 different partners and they're all different genders. Like, it does not matter who we're having sex with. Why does that come into play at all?
No, and I mean, like, who do transgender people have sex with? Honestly, mostly, I would say, for me at least, other transgender people.
That seems to be fairly common among our group of transgender
people
friends. So yes.
Because like you know each other and you're able to talk about boundaries in a way that is really helpful.
Right.
Cis people don't talk about boundaries enough. Cis people don't talk about the things that need to be talked about, especially with trans people. You know, you can't go into a sexual encounter with a trans person and expect everything to be on the table.
Right.
I know that there are things about my body that I get super dysphoric about. And if you try and touch that, I'm going to immediately shut the whole thing down and send you packing. Like, and so like, it really just depends. And you need to talk to your fucking partner about it. But you, stranger walking on the street, if I were to ask you, how do you have sex? What the fuck? Like,
what a weird question. Like,
yeah, like,
how do you have sex? The normal way? Like, what do you mean? And all the fun ways too.
Yeah, like, here's the thing. I just want to come out and say this. I do think that cis and straight sex, cishet sex, is boring. Like, that's
traditionally boring.
That's a firm belief of mine. I don't think that cis and het people are kinky enough. Let's bring back kink into sexual relations, and let's start helping each other feel good. Andre and I, in the car while we were driving back from the cities the other day, were talking about
la la la. No, sorry. Go ahead.
We were talking about how, like, I think it's like 70% of cis men like orgasm, even if it's a like fling, whereas like only 17% of women,
or less,
like
I'd heard that
orgasm on their in a fling situation. And so I'm just like, we gotta change that. Like, like let's get fun back into sex, please, because sex doesn't need to be boring.
I didn't want to make this comparison, but it's one of the things I admire most about the BDSM community. And I'm not making comparisons between being trans and BDSM, but there's an openness to communication in sexuality that is both endemic in the BDSM community and something that I have heard just communicated regularly in the trans community as well. And it's a simple openness. Cisgender people often have blinders on because there's this comfort for this is how life is supposed to be. And honestly, if you broaden your horizons just a little bit more, you might learn how to communicate with your partner and experience more pleasure between the both of you just across the board. So how do you have sex? You know, good. Hey, transgender people in BDSM community, you're having it real good. And wouldn't it be great if cisgender people learned from that?
And I mean, I in no way am I saying, okay, I just got a correction from Andre about the orgasm rates. It's closer to 90% for men and 30% for women. And we're talking about
I threw out 40.
Yeah, we're talking about cis-het men and women here. We're not talking other things going on. And I in no way do I want to make this conversation about the kink, BDSM, whatever community.
No, and I didn't want to make the comparison. It's just communication is key.
Yes, communication is key. And the reason why I bring it up is because you need to have communication to be able to do anything with anything with your partner, but especially in the kink community and especially with a transgender person, those are two communities who need a lot of communication between partners. And so please, if you are a person listening to this to support your transgender partner, to support somebody who you are in a sexual relation with who's transgender, if you ever have a sexual encounter with someone who's transgender, please communicate boundaries for both of you, because it will make everything so much better for everyone.
So much so. So, speaking of making things better for everybody, do you have a gender euphoria to share today?
I do indeed. So, Andre and I went to this potluck the other day, and
I'm so sad I missed it.
It was fantastic.
As the elder goth here, I feel sad to have missed this potluck.
It was so much fun. I was sad that you weren't there. But Andre, our now researcher, if you have missed a couple of episodes, ran around with a bunch of kids and was not gendered once during this. I remember them throwing a bocce ball around and stuff like that. And so it was so beautiful for me to see. Andre really appreciated that the kids didn't even try and gender them. They just were like, okay, cool. You're a person who wants to play with us. They also did want me to mention that there was a lot of mischief going on.
Well, it's children.
Of course there's mischief. And so I just want to say this was such a fun event. And if you get the chance to go to a goth picnic, goth potluck sometime soon, please do. Or set one up if you don't have one near you.
Look it up on Facebook. There are goth potlucks and picnics that go on all over the world.
All the time,
and, we, in our tiny community, we've replicated it, and we have a really core group of folks that show up to these things. So
yes, it's really cool.
There are goths everywhere.
Goths are everywhere.
If you have questions about transitioning or supporting someone who is transitioning and you'd like us to talk about it on the show, please shoot an email to questions@transgenderpod.com, click on the chat with us button on their website, or DM us on social media. And if you'd like to support the show, you can become a patron on Patreon.
Woo! Shout out this week to our backstage and sticker pack level patron, Atticus. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for becoming a patron. Be sure to check out our episode description for links to resources on today's topics, especially a link to a diagram of a titty, because I think that everybody should know what titties look like.
As well as, I'd like to post our questionable questions.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening. I've been Cam.
I've been Anna.
And this has been The Transgender.
I love you all, except the bigots.
Would you like to support our podcast? Well, you're in luck. We have a Patreon now. Just visit patreon.com/transgenderpod, and for as little as $3 a month, you can support the content that we're creating. And for $20 a month, you can join our Sticker Club, which provides you with a monthly live stream, a shout out on the podcast, and a sticker every month from ourselves and creators that we adore. Again, just visit patreon.com/transgenderpod, and thank you for all your support.